What is going on, ladies, gentlemen, listeners of the Didn't Ask Podcast? Welcome back to another episode of this right here podcast, the Didn't Ask Podcast. Welcome back to episode 76. Holy GBGBs. We're getting closer and closer each and every week to that mighty 100, which is going to be a very special episode. So keep your eyes peeled for that one, which is always found out a very weird stance. Like that saying is so weird. Keep your eyes peeled. Okay, I guess. Keep them peeled. Keep them open. Keep them dialed in. I don't fucking know. Keep them peeled. Keep them locked to this right here podcast, because we're gonna get closer and closer, and we're gonna celebrate that big 100th episode with a very special way. I'm planning it out right now, thinking what we're gonna do for that, but again, that's not this episode. We're episode 76. So yeah, how's everybody doing? Hope you had a good weekend. I certainly did. It was a very chill weekend. I watched some UFC, where there's still no F1. Luckily, that's going to change this week, because we're going to finally be back. We're going to go to Belgium, and then we're going to go to my home turf, the Netherlands. And it's going to be a very fun race to watch, that one especially. Hopefully, not hopefully, Spa should be very good this year, because of course last year we had the weird fucking rain, but now the weather seems to be doing very well this week. So let's hope that there is no real rain. Though I do think that the weather forecast said that we're gonna be expecting some thunderstorms in the weekend. So I'm not gonna say that Spa is fully in the clear, because they're definitely not. There might be some rain, but hopefully it isn't as bad as it was last year. Okay, well, so going back, I watched some UFC, and holy shit, that main event. I don't know what to say. If you don't know, this weekend, Kamaru Usman stood in the ring across from Leon Rocky Edwards to defend his welterweight championship, and holy shit, he lost it. Like, going into this fight, people were very much, hey, Kamaru Usman is way too good. He ran through the competition once, and he was basically doing it again, because he fought many people twice. He fought Colby Covington twice. He fought Jorge Masvidal twice. And now this was the second time he was going to get in there with Leon Edwards. So the first round, Leon Edwards surprised him a little bit with the wrestling, because Leon Edwards got very good at grappling, and he tripped him up, took him down to the ground, and basically dominated him there. So that was a bit of a mindset switch of Kamaru Usman, but he got back real quick and turned the tide on Leon Edwards, and basically dominated all the other rounds. So he dominated 2, 3, 4, and then after the fourth round, we had Leon Edwards' corner just yelling at him, like, hey, Rocky, you need to fucking do something. You cannot stay down. You need to fire up. You got this. You can do this. You name it. They were trying to fucking their hardest to get as much out of Leon Edwards as they could, because he was basically done. He was getting grinded out, and like at a certain point, there's very little you can do, especially when you're in the ring from somebody like Kamaru Usman, who is a Division II champion in wrestling. So if Usman really tries to get you down, he will fucking get you down, and we saw that. Like, there were moments where Leon Edwards was just unable to do anything, because he was just being dragged into the fucking deep waters. But sadly for Kamaru Usman, okay, this is a weird thing, because you cannot really say that it was a mistake, because he didn't do anything wrong. So Leon Edwards threw a punch with his left hand, so that made Kamaru Usman react and basically try and dodge it and basically push it off to the side. But by doing that, he put himself right in the trajectory of the kick that Leon Edwards threw at that moment, and it was one hit, and that was it for Kamaru Usman. He was out, and he didn't get back up for a couple seconds. Like, he was down for a fair bit, and he was completely out of it. Very much similar to when Kamaru Usman knocked out Jorge Masvidal. So it was very scary to see that he was just like, he was flattened out. He was absolutely fucking knocked the fuck out. So First off, congratulations to Leon Edwards to finally winning that welterweight championship. Again, it's very sad that Kamaru Usman had to lose it, but it's the fighting game. The fight isn't over until it's over, and even with 2 minutes left in the final round, Leon Edwards could grab the bag. He could grab the bag, and he was very happy. He called his mom immediately, and then he told his story in the ring as well. So it is a great fucking story. And again, his name is Rocky, and they played the Rocky team, and it was a Rocky moment. Really, it was a real cool Rocky moment. So congratulations again to Leon Edwards. But I think that Kamaru Usman will be back very soon. I don't think it's gonna take very long. I assume that he is gonna get a rematch because when you're having a fight that you dominate basically for 4 rounds, because he dominated again 3-5 basically, and then get knocked out with one hit, I feel like you deserve a rematch. So we're gonna see how that is going to end up. I was thinking about the fact that Trevor Whitman has had a rough couple of months because, of course, he is the coach and trainer of Kamaru Usman, but he's also the coach and trainer of Rose Namajunas. And both of them lost their titles now and pretty closely together. So that's real bad. And of course, it's something that he cannot do anything about. But it's just very sad for him that he went from 2 champions in his camp to 0 champions in his camp. And hopefully, Kamaru Usman can climb back to the top because Kamaru Usman is really one of the greats, and he was almost there to get even with Anderson Silva, I believe, with most consecutive wins at 16. I believe Kamaru Usman was at 15 now. So yeah, man, that was something this weekend. But again, this is not a podcast where I talk to you about sports, entertainment. No. This is a podcast where I dive into the world of Reddit to see what the people asked Reddit and didn't ask me. So let's jump into the first question asked by user Andrew is my dog, who asks, what's a name brand item you refuse to replace with generic? I am very much a bargain bin baby, if you want to call it that. Like, I am very much the person that I always try to look for the best deals. So for me, it's always like, I don't really care if the brand is home or house brand or an A brand or a B brand, you name it. I don't really fucking care. Sometimes it's even better to use the store owned brand than it is to use a brand that they have and sell. For one of these things is like I use a lot of body lotion because I have very dry skin. So for years I was using different brands like Vaseline or Dove and stuff like that. But now I just switched to the store owned brand and it's really fucking good and it saves me a lot of fucking money because for a bigger bottle I pay less. That's really nice with these type of things. But then I started thinking like, okay, what are some things that I would really only buy the name brand of? And then it's just like, well, it's probably lots of electronics. I really would like to buy the branded versions because again, like headphones, for example, like I went through a whole bunch of headphones because of the stupid wires breaking and stuff like that. But every time I tried to use like a generic brand or some cheap brand, the audio is so bad that it doesn't even sound correct. Like it sounds very tinny and like very hollow. So there is not real sound like that. That's not really good. So therefore, I always went back to like buying Sony earbuds or Philips earbuds or something like that that at least had some sort of brand recognition. And they're probably not even that much more expensive, but the audio is just a lot better. And right now as well, like I'm using Sony headphones and they're fucking fantastic. They were on the cheaper side, I would say, of headphones, but they were 120, I think they were when I bought them. So not the worst, but they're up there a little bit. So yeah, that is definitely a thing that I would try and get the most premium brand of, like headphones and stuff like that, and electronics as a whole. Then of course we have like toys where I'm looking at my Lego sculptures, I guess you can say, like my Lego builds. And of course, that's something that you can only get with Lego. So I will only buy Lego, but not necessarily look at some other, Mega Bloks type shit, because that's just not fun. There are also some candy bars that I'm also just like, well, I rather just take the brand version, like Kit Kat or Twix. But I'm just like, those things if you try to get the cheaper version, never taste the same or never are that good. So I think that those would be my answers to you. Andrew is my dog. What's a name brand item you refuse to replace with generic? I think about a whole bunch of electronic stuff. So like headphones, TVs, even accessories for those things like PlayStation controllers and Xbox controllers and Nintendo controllers, stuff like that. I really would like to have the actual brand that's connected to them, just because of the quality and the assurance that you get. And then there are some stuff like candy bars that I would normally just buy the brand version of instead of the generic, because the generic versions always are a little bit different and they are differently made and they have a different taste, so they're not quite the same and not quite as good. So that would be my answer to you, Andrew, is my dog. Free question. Moving on to the second question of today, coming from user candid underscore reading underscore 7267. And they ask, meat eaters, what type of meat, if any, is off your menu for ethical reasons? There are some things that I try and not to eat, and one of them would be pork. Like I don't like to eat pig stuff. I don't know. It's always like one of those weird things when you are a meat eater, when you go like, oh well, I don't eat fucking bunnies, and I'm just like, yeah, it is kind of fucking weird. But I think that pigs always are very much praised for their intelligence, and somehow years ago that went like, maybe I shouldn't eat pigs. And then I also, there's just like this thing where you consider pigs to be dirty, which doesn't really make any sense compared to any other animal, but because they, roll in mud and they eat shit and whatever the fuck. So to me, I would not eat pigs anymore. Don't like that. I don't like eating baby animals, so I don't eat lamb and calf and stuff like that, because that's all, and veal and stuff like that. They're all very weird to me. Where I'm just like, these are just babies. I'm not gonna eat babies. They don't have a life and stuff like that. So that is something I wouldn't eat. Yeah, and then I would not eat some type of birds that are just like different than chicken, I guess. Stuff like that. Don't eat turkey. Don't really like that. I don't eat fish to begin with, so that you can cross all of those off. I don't eat, like, again, bunnies and hares and stuff like that. Don't really like that either. Never really had it, but just the thought of it is seemingly very weird to me. So I tried to avoid that. So yeah, I think that is mostly it. So going to the question as by user candid underscore reading underscore 7267, meat eaters, what type of meat, if any, is off your menu for ethical reasons? And to me, it would be pork for one. And then a lot of baby animals don't like calves, don't like piglets, don't like lamb, don't want any of this stuff. I mean, I don't really eat mutton either, just so you can add that to the list as well. And then we have the things like bunny and weird birds like pigeons and turkeys and stuff like that. I don't want that shit. No, thank you, good sir. But thank you for your question, Candid Rating. Moving on to the third question of today, coming from user Greet the Curious, and they ask, what would be your role in an orgy? You know that if I can see a not safe for work question on the list of popular items of the last week, I will probably pick one for sure. So this one is really fun because it's about an orgy. What would be my role in an orgy? That's a very interesting and fascinating question to think about, because personally I'm very much like I'm a bit weird with germs and stuff like that. So I would not really see myself participating in an orgy. I just think that sex is way too holy of a thing to do. So I never really want to be part of a multi people sex thing. Maybe a threesome, but that's as high as I want to go. And then it's also only a threesome with two girls, not no guys, and not devil's threesomes. I don't want that shit. Even though my girlfriend, the thing is like, if my girlfriend wants a threesome with a dude and me, at some point, if I ever get a girlfriend, then my answer would be yeah, no. Because even though I want a threesome with two girls, I would be like, you know what I mean? I don't want the guy there to be fucking you. So, and you don't want me fucking the other girl. So then that's it, right? we're gonna just call it the day. We're gonna be like, hey, you want this, I want that. We're not gonna meet in the middle, or at least we're gonna meet in the middle, and meeting in the middle means no threesome. And I will be totally fine with that. So participating in an orgy is very weird for me. So for me, I would probably be a production assistant. I would probably be a production assistant just handing people condoms, squirting lube in their hands, trying to make sure that everybody's hydrated, stuff like that. So I am just there to be a waiter basically and just make sure that everybody is okay. Because I don't want to be participating in a fucking orgy. No, thank you. That's not fit. That doesn't tickle my fancy in any way, shape, or. So I would probably just be there, just again, being a production assistant, handing out condoms, handing out lube, squirting lube in people's hands and stuff like that, because I don't want to be there for any of it. So going back to your question, as by greet the curious, what would be your role in an orgy? And again, my role would be a production assistant. I would hand out condoms, make sure that everybody's okay, make sure that people are drinking enough water, making sure that people don't pass out. And if somebody passes out, I would call 911 and be like, hey, we have a situation here. This person had a wild sex party and is now very overheated, and he drank a little bit too little water, so might want to pick him up and put him on an IV drip or something like that. Okay, thank you. And then that's probably what my role would be in an orgy. So thank you for your question. Greet the curious. Moving on to the fourth question of the day, coming from user Lana Del Cucci. God fucking damn it. Why the fuck do I not read these usernames beforehand? God damn it. And they ask, do you believe in the 4-day work week? Why or why not? I personally believe in it. I like the idea of a 4-day work because they always say that at a certain point, when you're working 40 hours a week, you're going to hit diminishing returns. And I feel like we have shown this in the last couple of years that most of the shit you're doing in an office is fucking useless, right? And you're trying to stretch things out over multiple days because X, Y, and Z. So having the opportunity to basically compress that in 4 days instead of 5 could not only make those days a lot more efficient, so to speak, because you're now doing 5 days of work in 4 days, which means that you're working probably harder as well, which doesn't sound like that is a good idea, but I think it is. Because if you're going to the office for 8 hours, whatever the fuck, you want to be doing something for those 8 hours. And if you're there sitting on your fucking ass doing nothing for 2 of them, then why the fuck are we even there? So making sure that that is compressed is actually probably a good idea. And then that means that you have like a 3-day weekend, or at least an extra day, which means that you are completely free to do whatever the fuck you want. And I have heard this, I don't know where I heard this, so please tell me if you do know. But there is this thing that people say that a 3-day weekend is actually good because you have 1 day to do the tasks you need to do, so to speak. So grocery shopping, just shopping for clothing and making sure that things are at the ready. Then you have a day to socialize and be with friends, so you can have some drinks, you can get a dinner or whatever the fuck. And then you have just an extra day to just rest and actually rest and make sure that you're fine, that you're doing okay, and then you can start working again the next day. And I think that that is a very important thing to look at, that we don't want people to have burnouts and stuff like that, and we want people to be well rested. So by doing a 4-day work week, I think that that makes it a lot easier to have people that are more rested, which then results in people that are even more efficient than they were before. And then again, having those 5 days compressed into 4 could actually mean that they are super duper precise and that they're very well orientated and well organized, and therefore more efficient and doing the job better for that. So going back to the question asked by user Lana Del Cucci, do you believe in the 4-day work week? Why or why not? Yes, I definitely do believe in it, because I'm seeing that a lot of people that work 9 to 5s, from Monday to Friday, are in this weird position where they're basically at the office for 40 hours a week, but they're actually doing work for 20. So compressing that into 4 days could actually help out with that as well, and make sure that people are well rested before they go in the office on Monday. So, thank you for your question. And now moving on to the final question of the Ask Reddit subreddit for today, coming from user Spirity33. And they ask, what is 100% worse when wet? Like, there are many things that are worse when wet. The first thing that jumped into my mind was bread. Because wet bread is just fucking useless. Nobody wants wet bread. There is no real reason for it to be wet. And it tastes disgusting, it looks disgusting, it smells disgusting, everything is disgusting about it. So, my answer to you, Spirity33, what is 100% worse when it's wet? I would say bread. I can make this story very long, but it's bread. It sucks when it's wet, and there is no point for it to be wet. Like, there are certain things that suck maybe when they're wet, but there is some type of point. But wet bread, no. There is no real reason for wet bread. Unless you're dipping it in your soup or something like that, and then there is kind of a point, but still, nah, wet bread sucks. Thank you for your question, though. And now, moving on to the final question of the day, of course, coming from the Am I the Asshole subreddit, asked by user emotional-duty5051, who asks, am I the asshole for making my daughter share her presents with my stepdaughter? I, a 40-year-old female, was a single mother to my daughter Amy, 15 female. I came out 3 years ago and married my wife Jenna, 42 female, last year. She has a daughter Nora, 13 female. We all live together as I have full custody of my daughter. It was kind of hard for her to adjust to having a second mom, but they got along well. The girls have their birthdays very close, 2 days apart, so we decided to have a joint birthday party for both of them. Since Nora had a hard time making new friends, they moved in with us and she is very shy. Most of my family lives out of the country, so the gifts were sent a week early. It was a huge bag with at least 20 gifts. The party was nice and we opened the bag at night once everyone left. Jenna handed out the present as she took them out. After 12 gifts in a row for Amy, I checked the bag and froze to see that there was only one gift for Nora from my parents. She pretended it wasn't a big deal, but as she opened the present, I saw her eyes drop. It was a $15 tumbler from Walmart. Not to sound ungrateful, but Amy's gifts were much more expensive. Lots of gift cards for over $100, a new phone, limited edition Funkos, designer clothes, and a lot of cards wishing her a happy birthday. Needless to say, I blew up in the family chat, calling out my parents, siblings, and extended family who sent gifts for not considering Nora and my parents for the cheap gift. No one took me seriously since it's not our duty to give gifts to someone else's kid, and Amy deserved them since I didn't even throw her own birthday party, emphasizing that Jenna and Nora are my problems, not theirs. Nora was clearly hurt since it's not the first time my family has left her out. I asked her Amy to share some of the gifts with her stepsister. Not all of them, just a couple of gift cards and some of the new clothes. Amy refused. This surprised me, since she's never had a problem with sharing, and even though she and Nora are not BFFs, they usually get along. After asking why, Amy started crying, saying that she never wanted a joint birthday party and that I forced her to share everything with Nora. They share a room for space, and I make sure they're both invited to the same parties and sleepovers so that Nora won't be left out. If they don't invite both of them, then neither of them goes. Amy stated that she at least wanted her own gifts to be hers alone. I scolded her for being selfish with her stepsister, grounded her, and took a couple of her presents to give to Nora. She turned them down because she didn't want problems with Amy and it felt like pity. Since then, Amy has been cold to all of us. I just wanted my two girls to be closer with the joint party and have the same things. Am I the asshole? Clarification, Jen and I bought gifts for the girls, their own tables, as well as their friends. Nora also received gifts from her extended family, but they sent for Amy as well. So, Mom, I'm gonna call you Mom. I don't know, Jenna's wife. I would say yes, you're the asshole in this situation. While you're probably not seeing why you're the asshole, and that's why you're here at the I Am the Asshole subreddit, I would say that you are basically taking away everything from your daughter. And I see what you're doing here. It's like, hey, you want Nora, your stepdaughter, to be part of the family and part of the group and to have friends as well. But for Amy, who is like soon to be 16, basically, I mean, she just turned 15, I guess, but like, she is in that teenage mindset. She thinks that she's an adult, she thinks she knows everything better, and she wants to do things with her friends. But according to you, you're basically forcing Nora to be with Amy all the fucking time. And while that is very nice of you to think that, hey, if I send Nora with Amy to some place, Nora will have friends too. While that may be true, it also takes away the friends that Amy has, like the friendship that she has built and that the friends that she has, because now they have to share their time with Nora. And that is a really sucky situation where, hey, Amy is again trying to be the teenage rebel, basically, maybe. But I'm just saying that right now because that's basically what I wanted to do. Like, if you're hitting 15, 16, you want to do things. You want to go out with friends, you know, you want to fuck around. But now she has to babysit her sister. And again, it seems not that bad because Nora is 13 and so she can do her own things. But it does feel like that, especially when you forcing her to take, if you're forcing Amy to take Nora to sleepovers and other birthday parties and whatever the fuck, like that fucking sucks. If you have to fucking watch your little sister constantly, especially when it's not even your real sister, it's your stepsister. So it's something that that relationship was already forced onto her because you married the other mom. So that is already like a switch in her whole upbringing because that's not how she was brought up, right? Because she never had a sister. You were a single mother to Amy. That's the only family dynamic that she knows. So now she is already getting forced onto a sister, basically. But now she also has to babysit that sister for extended periods of time, and that just fucking sucks. So there are so many things that you can say here, but I think that overall, while you try to be nice and to be quote unquote inclusive with Nora and trying to involve her in anything, you're basically taking everything away from your own daughter. And that sucks for her as well because now it feels really hard for her when, in her eyes, and again, this is something that you probably don't see, but in her eyes, her mom is basically picking favorites because everything that Amy has, Nora needs to have as well. So everything that Amy does, Nora needs to do as well. So it seems like Nora is the favorite here and is basically being pushed into having a great time and having friends and whatever the fuck, while Amy is just there existing and nobody really gives a fuck. At least that's how it seems. So when she sees that, hey, people care about me with these gifts, and you're then again forcing Amy to share her life with Nora, that just fucking sucks, man. And that's a very sad situation you're in. And again, I understand that you want the best for your stepdaughter as well, because you are a family now. But I think that there is something to be said here where you can just be like, hey, Nora, let's go and find you a hobby. I don't think that Amy minds it at all if you spend some time with Nora, but now you're again forcing everything that Amy does onto Nora and making Amy involve Nora in everything she does. And sometimes you just don't want to do that. You just don't want to hang around with, your little sister. And while the ages are very close, I can speak from experience that if you're a couple of years older, 9 out of 10 times you're in different parts of your life. You're doing different things. Because I have a sister who is 2.5 years older. So very similar, but I would never hang out with her friends. Like her friends are her friends, and I don't give a shit about what they are doing. And that being said, like she would not hang out with my friends because I don't think that she would like that. Maybe some of her like some of my friends, I think she could hang out with, especially the people I hang around with in high school. But the friends I carry now would have nothing to do with her. So I think that that is something that you can take a look at, where it's just like, hey, these two girls are close in age but are in completely different parts of their lives. They have different friends probably, but again, you're saying that Nora doesn't really have friends. But I think that you as a parent should probably spend more time making Nora do stuff than having Amy take Nora to do stuff, so to speak. Like, hey, maybe have a conversation with Nora and be like, hey, what do you like to do in your off time? Does she have hobbies? Because with all those things, she can get friends and make sure that she is doing what she likes to do and basically broadening her horizons. So, going back to the question asked by Yusha, emotional duty 5051. Am I the asshole for making my daughter share her presents with my stepdaughter? And the answer is yes, you are. You're basically taking away everything that Amy has basically worked for, so you can give that to Nora. And that is a real shitty situation. Like, you took away her birthday party and now you're forcing her to share the birthday gift she got. Like, that sucks, man. That's really bad. So please reconsider. And again, do something with Nora. Go find her a hobby. Let her go to art class. Do something fun. Because that way Nora will get friends of her own, and then you don't have to force Amy to take Nora anywhere. Thank you for your question, though. And that is going to do it for this week's episode of the Didn't Ask podcast. If you did enjoy it, please leave a rating at Apple Podcast or Spotify, because both places give you the ability to leave a review, and that will help this show very, very much so. You can find this show on anchor.fm/didn't-ask-pod. That link will be in the description. Over here, you can find all the services this podcast is available on, and it's basically everywhere, like Amazon Podcast, like Stitcher, like Apple Podcast, like Pocket Cast, like Podcast Addict. You name it, it's probably there. If it's not, please let me know. You can do that on anchor.fm/didn't-ask-pod as well. There's a button that says message, and over here you can send me a personal message with you saying what podcast platform this podcast is available on, or asking me a question that you want me to answer on the show. You can go there and read the voice memo for me, and then I can play your voice memo on this right here podcast. If you don't want your voice to be heard on this right here podcast and want to stay anonymous, just say that somewhere in the message. Then I read your question out myself, so I can still answer your question very thoroughly. I will be back next week, and if you want to know what I'm doing in the meantime and in between time, you can go to track.tv. Over here, you can find all the TV shows and movies that I'm watching in the week, sometimes while I'm watching them. So that is really fun. So you can ask me some questions about that as well. That link will be in the show description. I talked enough for today. That's going to do it for me for this week. I hope to see you back next week. Thanks for listening. Bye.